Oh, how do you do? Come in, come in. Don't be shy. My name is Orson Squire Fowler, and while I had many interesting things in my life during the 1800s, including I was an advocate of women's rights and children's rights, I'm probably best known for two things: my 8-sided Octagon house and my writings and lectures on phrenology. Well, phrenology is the study of the shape of the human skull. Well, I believe that the bumps on our skull can indicate very clearly a person's intellect, their moral character, and, well, enough of that right now. I'll get to that later. First things first, I was born in 1809, October 11th, in Cohocton, New York, to Martha and Horace Fowler, graduated Amherst College, 1834, and despite having very little education in architecture, I decided to build an Octagon house. Yes, I purchased 147 acres along what is now Route 9, and I situated my house on an area of land. There is now a general food store there now. It's called, Adams. Now you see, I thought an Octagon house was actually less expensive to build. It had a lot of light, so it was easier to heat in the winter, keep cool in the summer, had all of this extra space. And, well, I was so excited about it, I wrote a book. Yes, it was called A Home for All, a new, cheap, convenient, and superior mode of home building. But you think that title is too long? I think it's just right. Anyway, because of my book, there were thousands of Octagon houses built across the United States and Canada. But sadly, in 1857, I was going through some financial difficulties, and I had to leave my house and rent it out, and then eventually I had to sell it. And I must tell you, on that day, my heart was broken. And then in 1897, the house had not been lived in for countless years. It fell into disrepair. It was condemned, and it had to be torn down. I am glad I was not alive to see that happen. And the people of the town called my Octagon house Fowler's Folly. Well, let me tell you, another of my passions is phrenology. And my brother Lorenzo and I, we actually opened up a phrenology practice in New York City. We charged 25 cents to have people's skulls examined. His wife Lydia joined us on our lectures and our tours. She was, by the way, the second woman in the United States to earn a medical degree. And I must tell you, those years together, just the three of us, they were among the happiest of my life. And we had some very famous people come to us to have their skulls measured. We had, President James Garfield for one, and there were, several writers, Edgar Allan Poe, Walt Whitman, Mark Twain, just to name a few. And I can assure you, having measured those skulls, those men were true geniuses, and they possessed sterling moral character. Well, let me show you my chart, and you can see. You see, I believe that where a trait is foremost, the bump on the brain is larger at that point because, well, the brain is larger at that point. So there may be a bump of intellect, or a bump of artistry, or a bump of benevolence, a bump of cautiousness, as you can see. Now, my critics, they thought that, well, it was the fact that I knew something about the backgrounds of those individuals and their education, and that is how I drew my conclusions, having nothing to do with the size of the bumps. So they said my phrenology was actually a pseudoscience, meaning not a real science at all, and phrenology went out of fashion. So the two most important things in my life, there was the Octagon house, was called Fowler's Folly, and phrenology was called a pseudoscience. Now, any other man would fall into despair over that. But for me, no! Because if you go down Route 9 today, on your right is Fowler House Road. And if you're lucky enough to travel to Colorado, please go to the town of Fowler. You see, my legacy will live on forever because those places were named after me, Orson Squire Fowler. Now is a successful life. Good day.